in partnership with Purple Eye Technologies, in association with Meridian Grant and sponsored by MR Printers, Regency Events, Prestige and DineNet.
Good evening and welcome to the Catering Circle. My name is Tanya Rahman and I shall be your host for this evening's show. On tonight's episode, we'll be discussing Brexit and the effects that it's had on the hospitality industry. As seen on the news, our high street favourites such as KFC and Nando's have all reported shortages in their food supply chain, resulting in the closure of many of their stores. On tonight's episode, we'll be discussing with our guests how can the industry bounce back post-Brexit, especially with the decline in the pound, the lack of access to key workers, and of course, the food supply crisis. But before we get cracking with the show, here's a short clip on tonight's topic.
Food, Brexit, COVID-19, and you. How to restore and rebuild British curry heritage post-Brexit. Reacting and responding. Have an open mind and network with local business hubs. Explore new solutions to problems. Learn rapidly from trends in market. Be creative and think outside the box. Respond to consumer behaviour and expectations. Know the new rules as they come into play. Prepare for the new UK immigration system. Communicate with customers. Tighten up your supply chain and be cost-effective. Making your business resilient. Maximize the use of data to save and target customers. Diversify your business. Explore new food concepts. Be adaptable. Evolve through trial and error and reinvent processes to be sustainable. Invest in research and development. Form a crisis management committee through regular meetings with management. Other strategies. Conduct a debt inventory. Make a note of everything you owe. Be forward-thinking. Prepare a cash flow forecast with a contingency plan for hidden costs and repayment models. Assess work processes and look at being more efficient to reduce wastage and minimize outgoings.
Well, we have an incredibly esteemed panel with us tonight in the studio and over at Zoom. And before we get cracking with the questions, I'd just like to introduce you to, firstly, our studio guests. So starting on my left here, we have Mr. Ahmed Ussamad Chowdhury, JP, who is Walaikum Salam, and he is the chairman of Channel S Television and also the chief advisor to the Catering Circle. He's one of the pioneers in the curry sector and played a key role in changing the British dining habits and just helping to prioritise the curry. He's also a community champion and a philanthropist and has devoted much of his time to bridging the gap between communities. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And to his left, we have Mr. Bajlor Rashid, MBE. He's a renowned British-Bangladeshi businessman and philanthropist and former president of the UK BCCI. He's also an ex-president of the BCA and incredibly passionate about the curry industry. So welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. On my right, we have Mr. Bashir Ahmed, who's the president of the British-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's also a very successful entrepreneur himself, and he has a wide range of investments in Europe, the UK, and in Bangladesh, including restaurants. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have a Catering Circle veteran, Mr. Ruhul Shamsuddin, who's the executive member of the Catering Circle and he's director of Lordston Estate Agents. So welcome back.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you.
Right, over on the Zoom, we have Mr. Akbar Ahmed OBE.
Hello, good evening and assalamu alaikum.
Good evening and walaikum salam. Welcome to the show. So, Mr. Ahmed, he's the chairman and chief executive of the CMART Group. And in 2006, he actually became the highest British Bangladeshi to feature on the Sunday Times Rich List. So, congratulations on that. He also has two companies, and I'm sure that if you are watching the show today, you'll be very well known. There are CMART and, of course, the iconic IBCO brand. He's got extensive interest in shipping, hotel and real estate development, especially within hospitality. So welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. We have Ms. Salima Vellani, who's the founder and CEO of K-Box Global and Absurd Bird. She's a serial global restaurant owner and operator and a strategist. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And finally, but definitely not least, we have Mr. Samson Sahel, who's Sales Director of the Ethnic Restaurant Sector at Cobra Beer Partnership. So welcome to the show.
Hi, good evening and Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Welcome to the show. Right, so we have a full crowd with us today. So the first segment for this evening will be discussing the concerns and opportunities that have derived, especially post-Brexit, combined with the pandemic. So I will go over to you, Mr. Chowdhury. So before we go to the questions, we're just going to do a quick segment preview of the concerns and opportunities. Right, so to kick off this segment again, I'll go to you, Mr. Chowdhury. So what do you think the impact of Brexit is going to be on the restaurant sector moving forward?
It's a wide area, but I'll summarize. Staff shortages, staff problem, and then supply, price increase, and also just 1.5% is being increased on PAYE. You know, that's another thing. And also the other thing is VAT, you know. So it's quite wide. Staff shortages are a huge problem around the country. We have thousands of restaurants outside the big cities like Birmingham, London, Manchester, Oldham. In remote areas, they do not have any staff. They can't find. And also, during the pandemic, because the restaurants were closed, so they moved to different areas, such as being drivers, you know, Uber drivers and so on and so forth. So I do not have the solution, but the government has the solution. If you'd like me to say what is the solution now, I can suggest my opinion.
Maybe we'll hold that thought for later on in the show. But yeah, those are very good points, exactly. And especially in relation to the gig economy, yes, a lot of workers are joining that due to the flexibility I find on that. I'm going to go to you then, Mr. Shamsuddin. So as a restaurateur yourself, please tell us what challenges restaurants are currently facing as a result of Brexit.
Okay, there's many challenges. The staff is the main concern. So how are we dealing with that? There are a lot of restaurants out there who are adapting and changing their menus, making it more localized. So the consumer, the customers are aware of what's happening. So it's the right time to adjust the menus to get the right local staffing if need being. I know there's a lot of talks out there. The government are talking. They were even talking earlier on in the House of Commons about taxations and how to get it on the wealth taxations and everything else. So there's a lot of challenges out there, but I think first tackle local, tackle small, start from that first. Everyone's talking, everyone's frustrated. I think you have to take a step and just act on it locally first.
Definitely, yeah. Those are really good points. Yeah. I'm going to actually head over to Zoom now and speak to Salima, actually. So, Salima, as a serial restaurateur and having multi-site operations, do you echo a lot of the thoughts that have been already said today? And is there some challenges that are different from your end, having multi-site restaurants?
Yeah, well, I think for all of us, labour shortages are going to be a significant part of the problem, as well as supply chain issues. But I always like to look at the positive and try and flip a problem on its head, because I think all of us are facing the same thing. And what we have done is try to utilize our resources to optimize for revenue. So I think our world we're just moving into a digital age, and technology can be so powerful in enabling us to get efficiencies where we couldn't get them before. So I think now's a time, and it's a great time, and this industry has been left behind, But we've seen that our industry's now moved to 30 to 40% food delivery, where it wasn't that before. So there's an immense opportunity right now to upgrade ourselves, get more efficient, understand that the customer today is very different. And if we're able to do that, we're able to then pay slightly higher wages and get people to begin to work more in this industry. And also, I think, by using technology much more efficiently, we actually can hire a different kind of labor force, so a less skilled labor force that can use technology in a much more efficient way. So when I say less skilled, I mean we don't have to get very sophisticated chefs anymore, because technology can do so much. You're able to hire people that don't necessarily have the skill set and come from a different industry into this one. So I think there's ways of flipping the problem on its head, but labor shortages, supply chain issues, increase of raw materials, these are all things that we're all going to have to face.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally echo that. And I think with the pandemic, that's really spurred the growth, especially of the online delivery market as well. And technology doesn't necessarily have to mean, anything that's on the blockchain on the internet. It can actually just mean a really good bit of equipment in the kitchen, for example, like a rationale. That really cuts down costs. Right, so we're going to go to Mr. Rashid now. So, Mr. Rashid, you're actually involved in the restaurant sector yourself. So please tell us what impact of Brexit you're currently facing in your restaurants.
Well, in our restaurants, not just our restaurant, every restaurant is facing similar things. Especially is not in the city, but across the country is the main problem, because we are having a staff shortage for many, many years. And we are lobbying government with the amount of staff, skilled staff shortage. But now is everything different. Because of the Brexit, the all sector got shortage now. And because of the pandemic, all the delivery started. That's also reduced our staffs, because a lot of the pandemic we are selling takeaway, we're selling huge takeaway, but we are still had to manage to cut down our staffs, and all these staffs are not coming back anymore. Why? Because they're doing delivering, they're doing driving, and all these things. That's why we are facing huge shortage, and that shortage will be filled up by local people once we train them, because I don't think we cannot rely on with Asian or the authenticity maintaining staff. We cannot do that. We have to train and find the homegrown staff. So we have to lobby with the government continuously, as we are doing it for all these years. That has to be more and more training center. It's not in our just curry sector. It's every sector got. The culinary industry, the hospitality industry, the shortage, we have to fill up by training. And that's what we have to lobbying for government now. And we're facing a main problem, the expensive, all the goods gone, very, very expensive now. The supplying is very difficult because of the driver shortage and other things. Because we are Brexited, everything is gone up. So these are all these things we're facing. How are we going to overcome? Because the salaries are very expensive now. Salaries are very, very expensive. All the supply we are having, very, very expensive. So we are not coping. But it's a huge challenge we are facing now. What we are advising all the restaurants are, hang on as much as you can. Yeah. But today or tomorrow we'll overcome, and we'll find a policy to how to overcome, and we'll overcome. That's why we are having a lot of seminars and advising them. We are consulting with the lots of experts. How are we going to overcome all this problem? Because it's one door closed, there is always another door waiting, but we have to find the door.
Absolutely, yeah, really good points. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to head over to you now, Mr. Ahmed. Hello. So, as the president of the BBCI, can you please tell us what kind of impact you feel Brexit is faced, especially when it comes to SME small businesses?
Yes, as my colleague already explained, is small businesses, SMEs are more affected due to COVID and Brexit scenarios. But as we know, we need to overcome, and we need to take the digital transformation of our SMEs, and that we are recommending to our members. And as we are member of the mainstream institution like British Chamber, London Chamber, so therefore we receive the guidance from them, and we are passing on to our member as well. But I believe that after the end of the September, when furlough process will end up, there will be really, then we would face more problems with the SMEs. And it is already predicted, and we need to accept that up to 25 to 30% SMEs will never come back again. High street are really seriously affected due to Brexit and COVID. But as my colleague said, especially Bangladeshi communities are very resilient business communities. So I think we need to do real, without not the textbook solution. We need to come up with practical solutions for all the staff shortages problem. Another thing, as you know, that 100,000 haulier drivers are shortages.
Yeah.
We have a short, and that we are informing government from last few years already. So we believe that SMEs will suffer, but bounce back. But one thing I would like to clear to our audience, as the CBI report today morning, government is not going to help us with any fund anymore, with not a work permit or anything from outside the country. As my colleague Bazil said, we need to train our people here. We need to resolve. We take the challenges ourselves and pass on to our members, and we should do it together.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you for that. And I'm going to go to Iqbal Ahmed over on the Zoom there, and I'm going to pick up on what was mentioned earlier about the lorry driver shortages, actually. So Brexit has actually created labour shortage in the UK's food supply chain. We see the likes of KFC and Nando's having to close multiple stores across the UK. And, you know, as Mr. Ahmed mentioned about the restaurants already suffering during the lorry driver shortage and the fall in deliveries. So as one of the major suppliers to the sector, could you tell us what do supply chain problems mean for restaurants as a whole?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very, very important issues you have raised. And thank you for Channel S for organizing these roadmap catering circle, which is very important. I think it's very important to show that we can make our audience aware that what is the problem we are facing and what is the catering industry and food industry is suffering and how we can help and what they should do. So, thank you. You got a very important audience here, and the panel, of course, we will make our contribution. Catering and food industry is very important for Bangladeshi and Asian community. Bangladeshi community is the major owner of this called Indian restaurant, and we employ almost few million people, contribute billions of pounds, and it's a major contribution to the government. And it's also attract the tourists. Tourists, even from India, they come here to England to eat Indian food, would you believe? Because we run a restaurant and we get so much booking from India. Before they come to Manchester, they book our restaurant in Birmingham. Even some of our friends, they tells me that Indian Bollywood stars comes here and eat our Indian food because they don't get that in India. So this is so important for our communities. I think we should not ignore this industry. We are all part and parcel of this industry. Every household, every lifestyle we have built, all the education we have given to our children, is all the benefit come from this industry. So we have to be adamant how we can support this industry. Now, regarding the Brexit, I was never supporting Brexit. You know, when European Union got together, we used to talk about the global village. The global village is one village. And Brexit has started to isolate that village and, out of this huge market. And we are, honestly speaking, we are facing a huge problem getting product from Europe, sending product from England to Europe. And you can see the stories suffering. We used to get so many Eastern European people into this country, and we used to, get them work. We don't get this anymore. Now, my major problem is the freight. The product is coming from abroad. The major product is all the spices is coming from abroad. All the frozen food coming from abroad. The freight, let me just share my experience. The freight, one refrigerated container, we used to pay between 2,000 to 2,500 pounds, say from Singapore to Felixstowe Port. This is now 12,000 pounds, 15,000 pounds. This is the major effect. And I don't think no government is taking care, because I think England, when you speak about the freight, which is my opinion, I mean, I think the politician will be listening and they will agree. The European Union is to fight for us. All together is a billions of population represent, European Union. Now it's only a small island. We just represent, we fight. I don't know how much we're going to gain out of it. I am fighting, and I'm talking about this freight for last. I've got hundreds of containers in Vietnam, China, India laid down. I cannot live because we don't make 15-20% profit in our industry. And the freight is gone up almost 20%. So this is one issue. And the delivery you mentioned, the delivery from my main depot to others is gone almost 20-30%. I mean, this is really a crisis, for this industry. And if we are not careful, if we don't campaign, especially the restaurateur, if they don't campaign, some of the restaurants will be closed because of the food shortages, because of the high prices. And another thing is, I like to advise through your channel that please come out of jealousy competition. Come out of jealousy competition, increase your menu. Increase your menu and increase the salary of your staff, because you are not increasing your salary. And you cannot increase your salary unless you increase your menu. So wherever you are, if you are a small city, please get together and sit down and work out how much you should sell. I'm not saying entire England come together, entire Great Britain come together, increase. If you start from a small areas, if you have 10 restaurants in sale, for example, Oldham or Burnley or Rochdale, come you sit down and, for God's sake, you increase together. Because everything is increasing, government is supporting, salary is increasing, but your menu is decreasing every time because of your jealousy competition.
Yes,
so
thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. Those are really passionate comments there, and we'll definitely continue this conversation after the break.
In partnership with Purple Eye Technologies, in association with Meridian Grand and sponsored by MR Printers, Regency Events, Prestige and DineNet.
Welcome back to the Catering Circle. Before the break earlier, we were discussing the concerns and opportunities post-Brexit, of which will actually continue now because the conversations were getting quite heated. So I'm going to head over to Samson Sahel over on the Zoom. So Samson, are you there?
I am.
Lovely, great. So Samson, as one of the major suppliers with Cobra Beer to the Indian curry sector, please could you tell us, what do you feel the supply chain problems mean for our restaurants?
What just a few minutes before Mr. Iqbal, Mr. Bajar Rashid and Bashir and Mr. Ahmed said, and Salima, we all are having the same challenge. There is no difference between us and restaurant because we all part of one big cycle. We also having a difficulty of staff shortage, no question about that. Supply, we are also facing a challenge of supply. But, we all have to work smartly. And it's very impressive, conversation. So many solutions are, given by Slima, by Iqbal and Mr. Bajar Rashid. And, I think, we all have to work proactively. We know now the problems are there. The challenges are going to be there and are there. And these challenges are not going to go overnight. These challenges are going to stay. At the moment, all expertise are saying going to stay till end of 2023. So maybe next 2 years are going to be very tough time. But if the challenge is tough, the reward is also bigger. And I think, these challenges where we are having a difficulties, but we are learning much more and finding a much more new ways to survive and to come over and to succeed. And we have seen many years, this industry, always succeeded, will carry on succeed, and will become very successful. We in this industry especially, they are warriors. Our restaurant owners. They are not run by somebody else like manager, because our people, they don't have a second option. So any business, when you don't have a second option, you always succeed. So which is, yes, we are all having a problem, like a staff shortage, salary. People are asking more salary, but not in our sector because our company run completely different way. But, we are hearing because day to day, when we meet our restaurant friends, because Cobra and, this industry are, become like, merged together, like we are working as a partner. So we do hear all the time challenges, but our people are very experienced, full of knowledge, and very positive. They're holding very positive attitude.
Thank you very much. Those are really great points. Thank you. Actually, I want to pick up on what Samson just mentioned there about staffing, actually. So I'm going to go to you, Rahul. So what does Brexit mean for staffing in the restaurant industry?
Staffing, as I mentioned earlier on, so if you get your local people in, I think restaurateurs at the moment are struggling and getting that frustration of what do we do? Do we go to the job centre? Do we do this? Do we go? Just, it's a simple thing. Pick up the phone or email, contact your local college who do the staffing, or if they're doing any apprentices, ask them, you need help. Ask your local council and authority, look, we are in a situation, we contribute to the local and we need staffing solution. Could you help us? A little thing calling your local council will help. I've seen it done and it does help. There are all different types of avenues you can do. You can be a bit brave and test your business. Not quite Brexit friendly or COVID friendly, but adapt to the changes. So as I said, to the limited menus and the local staffing. So,
yeah, those are really great. I think people forget that the council is actually there to support the local community.
And they're there for your support, for your mental health and everything else.
Absolutely.
So just contact your local authority.
That's really great, thank you. And just picking up again on the staff shortage crisis, Mr. Rashid. So one of the most vital post-Brexit crisis has obviously been the staff crisis issue. It's been happening, like you mentioned, for many years, even previously to Brexit. So especially our non-UK workers, especially European workers, they make about 25% of the industry. So what do you feel in terms of the government? Will they reconsider this whole temporary visa for non-UK workers within the restaurant sector, do you think?
Yeah, thank you. Non-European, we are always lobbying for non-European worker. But now is the chance, because we are out of Europe now. So now is the chance. We are very much optimistic that this time they have to allow. They should allow, I'd say they have to allow. Why? Because whole industry as a whole is suffering because of shortage of staff. So either we have, a lot of our restaurants, a lot of our companies already trying to getting people only Europe, because European is gone, but temporary visa. They're trying to have a 3 years contract or something. We are applying. We are all the restaurants now are applying for a sponsorship license now. We are getting it very easily now, since Brexit anyway. Right. Because as soon as every restaurant is applying for a sponsorship license, they're getting it. So what we are advising our fellow restaurateurs to apply for a sponsorship license, get staff from South Asia, whatever it is, India, Bangladesh, or Nepal, wherever is possible. And there are a lot of them are coming. But it is possible. It is the collective work we all together doing as an industry as a whole, to going and taking a delegation to the government, do as a special temporary visa to overcome this current situation. And I think it is going to happen. There is no other way.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
There is no other way, I think. got to. And because they have to be alert and they have to listen, because it's not just curry sector.
Of course, yeah.
It's whole hospitality sector now. Okay? And as Samson Sohelba is saying, it is, we are a fighter because we don't have a second option. Definitely. Because every restaurant is crying for staff. What has happened now? The local staff, all untrained, they are unskilled, but 2 skilled staff, but somehow day and night working 7 nights a week, just surviving themselves. And it will be a good light end of the tunnel. I'm very much optimistic. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to add
sure.
that there is something else as well we could do. We have thousands of, tens of thousands of undocumented workers who are so experienced. They're managers, they're chefs, cooks, waiters, but they're undocumented, so they cannot work as such. If they are given the permission to work, then the government is going to be the beneficiary, restaurateurs are going to be the beneficiary, and it will be much healthier. So that is a vital point. I think the government will have to pay attention to. We have been screaming, as Bozdubai said earlier on, that there have been staff shortages for many, many, many years. But it falls into deaf ears. I don't know why, but when we say maybe, the Bangladeshi restaurants are majority and everything, it falls into deaf ears. We can see that from other nations, if they say something, they can make it understand to the authorities. So what is the problem? Problem, I think, is us, all the Bangladeshi community, getting together, not just in the restaurant sector, getting together and get the local MPs involved. Then I think we can get our voice heard on that subject. But there are other issues as well.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what the show's about, really, raising the profile and the voice of the industry, really, to get our voices heard. So, on that note, I'm actually going to head over back onto the Zoom to Salima. So, Salima, like the spike in the staycation bookings will actually be quite critical for business recovery, especially post-Brexit and obviously the post-pandemic as well. And how do you feel like hospitality business can actually tap into these new opportunities in order to expand their domestic client base?
You're talking about the hotel staycation business. I think, look, one of the things, again, and I keep harping on about it because I think it's so important, when you use technology efficiently, and this is what we work with a lot of hotels that are actually now having to support a larger home audience, is how do you use data much more efficiently, right? So how do you get to know your customer base better, and how do you then provide services that they need? So we are now seeing hotels providing a wider selection of food offerings based on people that are coming to visit, to retain guests in their hotels, and also for home delivery. So I think, and I say this not lightly, because I think our industry, and I'm talking about hospitality in the wider sector, but also the Bangladeshi industry, restaurant industry, is the only way that we will survive all the problems that we're talking about today is if we understand who our customers are, if we understand how the customers are changing, if we're understanding that actually their needs are very different to what they were even 2-3 years ago. And then how do you target them? How do you become much more efficient? All of these things are so critical. And it goes beyond just the staycation, right? It goes, people now, we're getting a lot more guests staying in the country. So how can your restaurants target hotels? How can you tie up with hotels and work with them and work with the concierges, etc.? It's all about understanding what the consumer wants, where they are, where they're gathering, and then finding routes. And I think the easiest route to that challenge and to overcome that challenge is actually by using technology much more efficiently.
No, absolutely. Those are great. Thank you. I'm going to head over to Mr. Iqbal Ahmed again. So, Mr. Ahmed, in terms of food prices then, so we're seeing a big rise, approximately about 3 to 5%, especially post-Brexit as well, which ultimately can actually be a big blow to a lot of these restaurants' bottom line. So what do you feel could be done to resolve this?
As I mentioned earlier, freight is one of the issues, and then the transport cost is another one. If these two things come down, maybe we can reduce the price and we can make the sustainable. Price can be sustainable. The only way is we need more drivers. We need to reduce the freight, and that's the only way we can make it sustainable. Now, it's not affected yet, but yet to come. In 2-3 months, just during Christmas, you will see the price of the food is going to increase, very, very high. Now, before when I was speaking, I could not finish because of the advertisement. Another thing I would like to mention that to make this industry sustainable, we definitely need to encourage our second generation, because it's a restaurant and hotel business. It's a fantastic business. I mean, if you open a restaurant, 1 restaurant, 2 restaurants, 3 restaurants, and then you open a bar, then you open a hotel, and this is how a group of Taj hotels become the largest industry in the world. So I think we must find a ways to encourage our second generation to take over this industry, take over these businesses. And another thing is we must encourage our local people to get into this business, get into these jobs. I mean, if we pay more money than what they earn in a taxi, they will come into the restaurant. If we pay them their delivery, in the restaurant, we can pay. But my main concern is please increase the price, because our menu is a lot cheaper than any other Italian or Japanese or even some of the Chinese. So I think this is something you need to consider. One more thing. I would like to make an appeal to the government. Government has been really very helpful to this industry, reducing the VATs, furloughs, and giving grant to the small industries. This has to be continued. If it's not continued, then so many restaurants will be closed. And one more thing, the way they reduce the VAT, I would like to request through you, the corporate tax should be reduced for this restaurant catering industry. Corporate tax, if they reduce the corporate tax, this business will be boom. People will be more encouraged to open more restaurants and earn more money. Now, I salute our chairman of Channel S, Mr. Samad Chaudhry, mentioning that people who are, no documents are working, they are very vulnerable people. This is the people we depend on in this industry, and there are everywhere. So we need to appeal to the government to look into this, and I think, we can solve many problems. And another issue is Mr. Badlur Rashid was saying, as a friend of mine and a colleague of UKBCCI former president, as I request all the restaurant owner. I mean, in past, we had a restaurant voucher. I remember 55 years ago, people had a restaurant, they could bring anybody from Bangladesh. Now the government giving an opportunity, they should bring as much as possible. Because don't forget, Bangladesh economy is growing. The salary also increasing in Bangladesh. So in maybe 5 years' time, you won't be able to bring anybody from Bangladesh. So this is the opportunity I think everybody should take.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Those are really great points. And if anyone from the government is watching, please take heed of these comments, because we're coming for you. Right, well, that's all for concerns and opportunities for this segment. It's been a really jam-packed one. We're just going to actually now roll over to survival strategies when we come back after the break. Segment 2. Or do I now say... Right, so this is segment 2, and we'll be talking about Brexit survival strategies and doing a deep dive onto that. Before we get cracking with the questions for this particular segment of the show, we're just going to do a quick link to a video of restaurateurs and how they've survived Brexit and the pandemic.
To survive, I believe our industry has to diversify, really need to promote, market and publicize our own online websites. Also, we need to revisit our menus and increase prices accordingly. We also need to train and recruit staff from other communities who are willing to work in our catering industry.
Number one is we need to reduce wastage. How can we do that? We need to reduce water waste, electricity and gas. Not only that, also food as well. Number two is you can do paid advertising. Okay, you should invest in paid advertising to bring your business in front of more customers. And also what you can do is negotiate with your utility suppliers. You'll be surprised with your dustbin collection, with your electricity, with your gas and your water. You'll be surprised if you shop around, you can save quite a lot. And in the end of the year, that will add up to thousands.
Very important and vital that we review our price structure, we start a new kind of marketing campaign, and look at the engagement with the public. And also sustainable packaging has to be a key important issue if we want to survive Brexit and post-pandemic.
Let's focus on our menu price increase. What this means was our price to essentially make a profit per order, as opposed to making a profit at order number 100. This means it's protected for the future and the pressure is lowered. The other side of it was cost streamlining, something as simple as payroll. I changed it from a weekly payroll to a monthly payroll. This helped my cash flow, along with that accounting fees dropping by about £600 a year. Because if you speak to your accountant, you'll find out that they do charge you per pay slip payroll.
One thing we really focused on was suppliers. So we renegotiated our prices with 95% of our suppliers. They all came down in price. We bulk bought. We have more food main suppliers. As we know, food goes up and down. So we compared the prices and we're saving at least about £1,000 a week from doing that. We also kept to our safety measures, even though things have been lifted. We didn't want our staff to get ill, so keep to that. And cut the labour where possible. So cut down your menu, try and get customers to order on your app or buy online. Any way you can, cut the labour, and that will really try and help you.
Right, so welcome back, guys. So that was really good points there from fellow restaurateurs. So before we get cracking with the break, I just want to start off with this segment, actually, so survival strategies, because I feel like never has that been more poignant as of now. So I'll start with you then, Mr. Bashir Ahmed. So after repeated lockdowns we've had over the past 18 months, how do you feel small businesses are facing in terms of like the unprecedented staff shortages, and how can you and your team at the BBCI address this issue?
Well, we discuss a lot, I think, about the staff shortages. I believe this is a great, the panel you got. I think I can come up with a very simple proposal. It is a long shot to, I believe, is practical because I was running one of the largest Indian restaurant chain in Holland before I come to this country. So practical solution would be, you have a great panel here with Mr. Bazlur Rashid, Chairman of Channel S, Mr. Iqbal Ahmad OBE. Without depending on the government, I think we can start our own, training our staff, as our young colleague panel member said. You need to come up with, train your local people. And BBCCI can take the initiative. Let us create a fund. Not depending, as I said, this is the practical. If you see today's morning news from CBI, government will not come in supporting it in coming another 2 years, not with the work permit from European domain or anywhere else, or no funds, even they're increasing all the taxes, what we discussed already.
Okay, thank you very much. What we're going to do,
we're going proposal if you can go. Let us create our own fund, train our staff, and we can contribute.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the practical, not a textbook solution. And I don't believe personally a textbook solution. You have to come up with practical solution. This is the practical solution to solve. With the great people here, including the Assumption of Cobra Beer. Let's contribute ourselves, create a fund, bring some chef, and train ourselves.
I'm going to let you pause for a second because I want to continue with this conversation right after the break. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be back shortly.
In partnership with Purple Eye Technologies, in association with Meridian Grand and sponsored by MR Printers, Regency Events, Prestige and DineNet.
Welcome back to the Catering Circle. This segment we'll be talking about Brexit survival strategies. And before we get cracking with this segment, we just want to confirm to viewers, please do check out the Catering Circle app and watch the show on our Facebook channel as well. So, survival strategy. So, we spoke before the break, and Mr. Ahmed, you were talking about how businesses can help with the unprecedented staff shortages. So, I actually want to continue on that theme, actually, and I want to go over to Mr. Rashid. So, in terms of staff shortages then, what do you feel? Like you spoke about the government should be doing more in order to get the temporary visas. So how do you feel, is that actually going to happen? Are governments listening? Do you feel like there's going to be a roadmap to that?
Well, I think I explained all this to you before, because we have to keep lobbying and trying and applying and finding solution to keep our industry going. But now, recently, I like to advise, because why the Iqbal Bhai is saying the second generation, right? What is the second generation mean? Third and fourth generation now, isn't it? Our younger generation. Our younger generation, they are the people who actually put us in the problem, because they are too many doctors, too many engineers, too many highly qualified, too many professors. Now I like to advise, please leave those enough in this country. In this country, the most people are highly qualified. Now we need manual worker, okay? If you ask your family, like they done masters. Lot of our family members, they completed their masters, they done everything. We convinced them, some of them, even we interviewed in the Catering Circle program, a number of young boys, they completed the masters, now they're not working in the offices now. What they did, we trained them, because we all restaurant, we know how to cook and things like that. We trained them, and some of our sons, nephews, now they're chef, and their restaurant is running. So now I like to ask all our family members, please, forget about all these jobs. Education is enough there now. Come back to our industry. You'll earn a lot more money than you are working for a company. You'll get 60, 70, 50,000, 60,000, and they will drain your energy out. Whereas if you're working for your own father, you'll have your restaurant, you'll have a more restaurant, and if you become a chef, then you can run a restaurant. You cannot run a restaurant without a chef. So ask your family member to become chef, and we train ourselves. We don't need another trainer from outside. We can train them. And if he or she becomes chef, then our restaurant can continue. That restaurant will be survived. Those restaurants will be survived, and he will be passionate. So our chef, as we are discussing, they need to be more. We have to give them media have to give them a more glamour. If they find more glamour in there, as a lot of celebrity chefs all over the world now, they have a huge glamour. So we have to encourage and give them enough glamour and encourage them, and they will come and join. And that way, will slowly ease up.
Yeah. And
same time, obviously, we are the training in school, training college, or we all of us get together and do wherever local. Local, we have a 30 restaurant. Say, all of us together, find a trainer, train them, contribute ourselves also. I agree with Bashir Bhai. Whichever way we can, we'll do that. We're lobbying government. We are getting as a sponsor, we are bringing people from overseas as well. But same time, we have to encourage our family member. Because instead of earning 50, 60,000 pounds, working from, like they're going out from the house 6 o'clock in the morning, coming back in the 10 o'clock in the evening, work in your restaurant, eat well, sleep well, and you will be rich. And we'll have a more restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I always had an idea that, in remote areas, we always suffered to find staff, because we have to provide them accommodation and everything. And his family lives in Birmingham or London, so he doesn't want to come. And chef was always a difficult, finding a chef was always a difficult task. I always believed that regionally, in remote areas, if we have a central kitchen, with professional chefs, and say 30, 40, 50 restaurants take the dishes, main ones, from there, that could be one solution to reduce staff and also, cost.
Well, that's a good point, yeah. Yeah, great. Well, we're going to head over to Salima now. I'm going to change the topic slightly from staffing and focus more on the costs, actually. So we all know since post-Brexit, the cost of ingredients have gone up and they're continuing to rise, especially over the coming months. So in terms of consumer confidence then, what do you feel would be the most smartest way to increase prices on our menu without actually losing the customer? I think you might be on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Apologies. I'd like to answer it in two ways. So in one way, I think everybody, it's so well publicized, the issues that are going on with the supply chain and labor shortages. So I don't think any consumers are not going to be surprised by price increases. And I think it's important for the whole industry to come together. And I think somebody made the point that, there shouldn't be a competitive streak on this. It should be, in order for you to survive, you need to increase prices if costs are increasing. But I think what we're finding is if you're producing menus and brands that customers are actually demanding, so actually looking at marketing, looking at all the kind of social media avenues that we have, and you're creating brands that are on trend and really exciting, people will pay more for it. We're finding that. We can put prices up because of the kind of aspirational value of those brands. The other thing I will say is what we have done is look at our ingredients and say, what else can we make with those ingredients using the same labor that we have? And actually, we've been able to increase revenues by about 300 to 500% in our restaurants because we're providing multiple menus for delivery using the same ingredients and using the same labor. So actually, we're becoming much smarter about how we look at the back of house, so how we look at labor. Look, our labor is a sunk cost, and our equipment and our rent are sunk costs. How can you take that sunk cost, look at your ingredients, and be really smart about what you can do? So, for example, I have, a chicken restaurant, but I can launch a Mexican brand out of my chicken restaurant. I can launch a wings brand, and I can double or triple my revenue as a part of it. So I think look, prices are going to rise, but also look very cleverly at how you can use what you have and double up on it. And like I said, we've been able to see significant revenue as a result of actually just thinking very carefully about what we can use those ingredients for. And then I agree with the gentleman before about central kitchen. So actually a lot of our product is of a very high quality and it's made by Michelin-starred chefs, but it's actually a lot of it is pre-prepped in a kitchen and then brought in. So there's very little skill that's needed in the kitchen right now because the way that we structure it is such that 80% of it's done by the time it gets to our kitchen. So I think be very creative in how you present your brands and how you work with your back of house as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the whole notion of creating multiple brands in one kitchen and just working smarter, it just really drives that revenue growth, especially during, post-pandemic and post-Brexit. So thank you for that. In fact, on that similar vein, I actually want to go over to Samson, actually, on the Zoom. So, Samson, we've been speaking about pricing. So what do you feel as a supplier, suppliers can actually do to guarantee pricing stability to pass on to restaurants?
We haven't increased our price, and we are not planning to increase any our price in 2021 because what Salima said. We have to work smartly. Use more technology. What sources we have, how we can use more effectively, and And price is to increase the price. Yes, it is important, no doubt, because the raw material, if we are getting more on high price, we should pass on. But just increasing price is not the solution only. solution is how smartly we are working, and how much we know about our customer, and what Mr. Rashid said. Basically they have done great job. BCA, when Mr. Rashid was a president, they done so much work to the government to get a work permit, and I think is all depend on how smartly we are working, and the work which our in the past what organizations like BCA and they have done. I think we should take a benefit, and we have seen the benefit in many different ways. So I think this is the way moving forward.
Great, thank you very much. Now, in terms of like restaurant pricing and consumer confidence, I'm going to ask you this question, Rahul. How do you feel like restaurants can actually regain consumer confidence to the consumer?
At the moment, there's a lot of good advice that you get locally from business consultants. Get in touch with business consultants. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, get in touch with the local council who get in touch with the business forums. Mm-hmm. That will give you the current measures of what your pricing should be of a certain dish. Then your chef can also intervene and say his feedback or her feedback of what the pricing of that should be at this current climate. You have to factor in everything else, the rent, the utilities, there's so much to take in. You're a restaurateur, an entrepreneur, which means you take calculated risks. Now, for that, you have to weigh up your pricing of your dish.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really good points. So I'm just actually going to head over now to Mr. Ahmed over on the Zoom. So, Mr. Ahmed, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, you're there. OK, lovely. So what steps would you say that you'd be taking to build that supply chain resilience and guarantee that pricing stability moving forward that we discussed?
Well, pricing is all depends on the cost of transport, as I did mention. And I think the raw material price is not increasing at all. So I think if the government take action, again, I'm talking about the government issues, take actions and reduce the monopoly of this transport cost, then maybe we can make it, we can continue serve with the reasonable prices. Can I just go back to your other issues? I did not finish. The surviving strategy for this industry. Surviving strategy is, I would not say surviving strategy because this industry will survive, but people need to eat. Now, how we can improve the business, how we can make this business, very, very successful. Let me just give you an example. I run a restaurant, I run a grocery shop, I do everything. And I'm still a family-run business by having a corporate culture, corporate governance, because I believe in running a business. You should be making money while you are sleeping. You are on holiday. So what I suggest that this industry need to recruit the second generation, as I said before. When I say second generation, if the father is running the business, he should train his son. He should make him higher educated in management or whatever industry he is in, and put him into the same business and give him that legacy. Now, this is the only way you can make this business successful, because our industry, we need to train people. For example, let me just tell you, Japanese have started their business all over the world by having their chef, Japanese everything. Now, if you go to a Japanese restaurant, you will hardly see any Japanese. These are all run by these Filipinos, and all other people. So the training is very important, and then I think the intelligence services, using the technology, using the high value, using the better service is very important. And then I think this industry has the sky is the limit.
Wonderful.
We are not there yet. We created the foundation, but we want to hand over to this second generation for take it forward. So I think it's a fantastic, panels everybody share. But my main concern is how we can add value to this industry. And there are many opportunities. I think that our children need to be educated on how to increase the value addition, how to manage this industry properly, and government, we need the government support. So thank you very much, but I don't think I can stay long because I've got to go. And if you just allow me, but I wish you all the best. And thank you everyone for inviting me. Thank you, Channel S, and lovely to see you, all the members of the panel.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Right, so on that vein then, we'll still be talking a bit about the supply chains, and actually we'll ask you then, Mr. Ahmed. So, you know, echoing what Mr. Iqbal said over there, if businesses in the supply chain did go under, and obviously we're going to have issues sourcing products and ingredients, and then that's going to be more and more difficult. How do you think that businesses can actually, you know, resolve and solve this problem?
Well, you see, it depends on how smart your the restaurateur and your chef is. Cooking is actually a scientific profession. We fail to understand that sometimes. If you wanted to train yourself in a cooking school, you need to be a science student, and because it's scientific value on there, you need to understand the every spices, ingredients, the value adding and quality and quantity as well. So I believe that if a smart chef is there, there is always alternative of any ingredient available. So you can outsource that before. And I hope my colleagues agree with me. Indian restaurants have largest stockpiles in every restaurants. We do not check the inventories because we stock lots of item and that cost us lots of capital injection in the business as well. I believe the value added, what Mr. Iqbal Ahmed says, we need some motivation. We need to bring raw model chef. We need to pass on to our young generation the positive vibe, positive result of involving themselves. If we can see that that Chef Kashar Chaudhary from Australia, the young woman, become a third chef in Australia. If you can pass on the message about our Nadia Hassan, the MBE. There is a Jimmy Oliver, there Gordon Ramsay, 45 million worth chef in this country exist. Yeah. So we need to motivate our young generation. We need to pass on those information. As I mentioned offline, off air before, that negative impact of restaurant workers, that's one of the barrier of bringing young generation into these sectors. So as my colleague Bazlur said, if we can give them positive feedback about the restaurant and our futures, and they can see their future within us, I am sure, because we as a second generation, we took over the restaurant from the rudimentary format. And it's our duty, we succeeded up to certain level, but it's our duty to take it into next generation, and therefore, of course, I fully agree, we need our young generation to come in. But Absolutely. We need to give them a positive feedback about the restaurant sector as well.
For sure, yeah. Although I don't feel like the new generation need to be chefs in order to do that, but more just take an interest in the industry, which
yes, of
I
course.
think is not being done right now. Okay, so actually I want to go back over to Salima. So Salima, you have obviously Absurd Bird is a fantastic brand, and you mentioned earlier you run multiple brands from your kitchen for the delivery front. So on that vein then, how do you feel like restaurant brands can actually survive and especially thrive during these times at the moment? If you could unmute again, Salima. There you go.
So very simply, it's in a similar way that we did, right? Which is severalfold. One is we're as an industry very bad at understanding data, right? So know who your customer is. Your customer is no longer the person that comes and sits in your restaurant. Your customer now is the people that live 2 kilometers around you, right? So that if you know that there's gaps in your market, and say you run an Indian brand today, is it the right Indian brand? Because now you've got very trendy concepts that are coming up, like Dishoom, like Cricket, etc., that are very savvy on social media. How can you compete with those, right? So in your own cuisine, how can you create much more trendy, on-trend menus? And I'm talking not about just for your restaurant, but also for the delivery customer, because again, that delivery customer is going to make up anywhere from 10 to 50% of your revenue moving forward. It's just fact. That's the way that the industry is moving. So, but also understand gaps, right? What else is there that you can do to service your customer? That's about understanding data, right? So if there's a cuisine gap in Asian food, Asian bowls, for example, or vegan food, how can you fill that gap? And that's by actually understanding your customer better, understanding that you can use your ingredients to do a lot more. So going back, we have, multiple brands running out of all of our kitchens, which increases our revenue by about 300%. I'm still using the same labor. I'm still using a very select set of ingredients. What I'm doing is I'm working with my suppliers in a smarter way. I'm working with central kitchens in a smarter way and having them do a lot of the work. So by the time it gets in, I don't need sophisticated chefs in my kitchen, right? Those are very costly and hard to find people. Now I can have much more unskilled labor in my kitchens. How am I using technology, right? How am I running a handful of brands out of a kitchen and doing it very efficiently? And to your point, in order to survive as a restaurant, you have to know the ratios that you're working to. So your rent costs have to be a certain percentage of your revenue. Your food costs have to be a certain percentage of your revenue. So these are all things. And also looking at trends, like veganism has become so prevalent right now. It's now, it's growing at 25 to 30%. And there are so many interesting products out there that one can use. But again, it's about working with suppliers, working with high-profile chefs, working with tech companies, understanding the industry is moving ahead. And I think the Indian sector is really far behind. Yeah. There's so much that you can do in order to increase revenue. So I wholeheartedly recommend that people start understanding what products out there, what technology solutions are out there, how they can use the same ingredients, how they can make more use of their labor, and how they can talk to suppliers in a very different way to make sure that they get better buying power.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Salima. They're really fantastic points. We're actually going to take a really short break now, and when we return, we'll be on our final segment. We'll be discussing top recovery tips.
In partnership with Purple Eye Technologies, in association with Meridian Grand and sponsored by MR Printers, Regency Events, Prestige and DineNet.
Welcome back to the Catering Circle. This is our final segment of today's show, where we'll be discussing Brexit. Previously, we discussed survival strategies post-Brexit, which we're just going to pick up on now. So I actually want to head over to the Chief Advisor of the Catering Circle himself, Mr. Samad Chowdhury. So, Mr. Chowdhury, what advice would you personally give to restaurants in order to regain customer confidence again?
Well, before the pandemic, was relaxed, we thought that when it is relaxed, we'll be flooded with customers. It's not happening. It's not happening at all. People have got used to takeaways, but coming to the restaurant, they're hesitant. There are a few reasons for that, because they don't feel safe. They know that pandemic is here to stay. So what the restaurateurs have to do is abide by the hygiene regulations and also become very friendly to the customers and make sure that everything is clean, tidy, and follow the procedures when the pandemic was severely there. So let them come in, let them feel that they are comfortable, let them feel that they are not going to, catch virus and they're safe. So you got to have all this, hygiene equipment and everything, hand wash and everything and so on, making sure that, the toilet is sort of every half an hour or every hour it is cleaned. generally when he comes, he feels that I'm safe. This is, I think, the main ingredient for him to come back again. And at the same time, adapt to the new sort of likings of the customers, like many things have changed. So they have to adapt to that. Also, they have to reduce their menu and many things, kitchen, organizing the kitchen and everywhere. But above all, make sure that when the customer or customers come in, they feel that it is a safe place.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Those are great points. Actually, I want to go over to Mr. Rashid now. So we were actually having some discussions off air that were quite heated. I actually want to bring those discussions on air because they're very poignant. So, before the previous general election, Priti Patel, she campaigned a lot for the restaurant sector. So what are your thoughts on that? How do you think she's done, especially since they've come into power?
Because she did, but then she did not listen to us. And she did lost her job, that. She came back now as a home secretary, Now she's more pro. That is, I can say, because we had a few sessions with her. Now she's more fair, but they're working out. But that used to be, before used to be 29,500 for a one chef to bring. That is, we asked for a reducing to 19,000 something. That was our proposal, almost 20,000. But now it's reduced to 25,500 or 600 something. Some reducement, some.
Are you happy with that, the reduction?
No, we're not happy, but if something is better than nothing is happening. But as she said, but we did not have Brexit after straight away, did we? Because there was a lot of Brexit process. Some people didn't want a Brexit, although the Brexit won. And in the end, when Brexit has happened, the pandemic came. So basically, the whole Brexit process, they're going to follow now. And they will allow, they have to allow, I cannot surely say that now, but they will allow us to bring people from the non-European countries. That will happen, because European is not here now. That's what I said previously. I'm repeating myself, of course, but it will happen. But now, we have to do the reminder to her, but during Brexit, that's why we voted for the Brexit, because we can bring more stuff. And that has been publicized all over the media repeatedly, why the curry restaurant people voted for the Brexit here. Why? Because they can bring chefs, skilled people from the non-European country. So that is now, we are reminding with the BCA, especially UK BCA, BCA, all of us, the BBCCI, everybody is working. So slowly, I think it will happen very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon, because she did promise. She did promise, because we are constantly lobbying. She did promise. Probably you all of us heard. She said we'll issue a Vindaloo visa. She actually named it Vindaloo visa. Okay. Vindaloo is chicken vindaloo, lamb vindaloo, which is straight curry we sell for many years. And she did promise. And then she actually changed, as our brother just mentioned before, off screen, that she's gone for a now Australian type, the visa system, point-based visa system, which is not going to help us as we are working. But we need more lobbying and submit a proper plan what we want. Mr. Ahmad Chaudhry, he said that we also campaigned for previously back in 2008. We did a demonstration in Trafalgar Square, and we did say the regularized undocumented worker. If you regularize them, then they will be officially working. Same thing I'm repeating. Industry will be benefited, and government will be benefited, and those workers will be benefited as well.
Yeah.
And that's what government, we have to ask them specifically. There are so many hundreds of thousands of undocumented workers in this country. Please use them. Temporarily use them now, before we bring others from overseas.
Yeah, no,
and that will be our stronger lobbying now.
No, for sure. And I think like a politician not sticking to their word. I mean,
No.
nothing new there, is there? Yeah.
Politicians are very slippery these days, not just here, all over the world. Okay, so but we have to fight for our right.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to head over to Salima there. So Salima, as you've heard, like politics is a really hot topic on this show. So in terms of, you know, the hospitality, especially the curry industry voting for Brexit, do you feel like we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot there? Unmute yourself, okay.
Absolutely. It was possibly the worst thing that the industry could have voted for. Well, we've seen the repercussions of it, right? I think the majority, most economies are moving out of the pandemic a lot faster than Great Britain. I think Great Britain is far behind Europe and most Western economies like the US, who are actually bouncing back from the pandemic quite fast. So we've absolutely shot ourselves in the foot. I do think, again, like I said, there's no point moaning about it. It's happened. There has to be aggressive lobbying against the government because politicians never stick to their word. So we have to keep lobbying. We as an industry won't survive if we don't continue the lobbying, because if the staff shortages continue, if the supply issues continue, how are we going to surpass this? So there's nothing more that we can do except lobby the government, but also help ourselves, right? So think much more creatively as an industry. I always say, when there's a problem, there's always a silver lining, and we have to be innovators right now. So I mean, we can all feel, and this is the worst thing that's happened to us. Everything's awful, everything's negative. But flip it on its head. There's always ways to be creative and to think through a problem constructively. And I think what's wonderful about the Bangladeshi community, is that it's also interrelated and so connected, and probably one of the most resilient business communities there are in this country. If people come together, work together, think creatively, come together for solutions, that's the only way that you're going to sort of survive this. So I wholeheartedly, and I think this is one segment of the hospitality industry that has a better chance than most because of the way that they've supported each other through the years. But yeah, it wasn't the smartest move.
Yeah, but I love that though. I love the positivity that there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel if we kind of rally together, I suppose. So. Yeah, in terms of carrying on then with the conversation, so you know we could talk about this for I think an age, but I'm going to go to segment 3 now. So segment 3 we'll be talking about top recovery tips. So I think I'll start with you then, Mr. Chowdhury. What do you feel? Before we do, we're going to go to a link. Sorry. Welcome back. So now we're going to head onto the top recovery tips from each of our guests today. So I'll start with our studio guest first. So Mr. Chowdhury, so we've had a really good discussion about post-Brexit news. So what would you say would be your one top tip?
We are a resilient community. We have proved that. We came with nothing to this country, and we dominated the industry. So we should not give up. Think positive, and let's fight.
Love that. I love that. I want that on a T-shirt. Think positive and let's fight. Fantastic. Right, OK. Mr. Ahmed, what would you say your top recovery tip would be?
Well, my vision and dream for the industry recovery will be, of course, digital transformation is overdue for a very long time. Price increase, of course. And also the concept base, the innovation base, the menus. We need to come out of Vindaloo Madras era now. We need to come up to cater with new generations. We need to see who is our client, and I believe that is the only way we could come out of the industry. We have to agree and is for our honorable viewers. We need to come up from the fixed mindset what we are doing pre-Brexit. We need to come with adopt those technologies, what is good for the future, and that's the only way we can bring our new generation in and survive.
Oh, that's great. Although, can the curry industry ever come out of the Vindaloo? I mean, isn't that a little bit blasphemous? It made us, right?
You see, if you see the recipe of the Vindaloo and Madras, the new generation are more smarter than that. More generation, actually, in America already 10 years ago started with what is the calorie on your menu. So the new generation are not going to have your menu without researching on it, what ingredient we are using, how much calorie inside within that dish is actually. So we need to cater for the incoming generation.
Sure.
And that's the reason we need innovations, new concept, digital transformation for the business to go and compete with our colleagues.
Thank you very much. Those are really great. Okay, so Mr. Rashid, top recovery tips.
Top recovery tricks is similar. I mean, our Iqbal Ahmad Obi, he keeps shouting and making noise, and everyone agrees. We have to do a lot of noise, like do a lot of roadshow we do with our, town to town, city to city, for many things. But same time, we have to advise them constantly price increase. Because without a price increase, it will be a unethical competition, and the restaurant will go down. Only way to overcome, because these food are expensive now, as the Iqbal Bhai said, that container was 2,500, now it's 15,000. So obviously we have to pay for it. Who else? We have to pay for it. And now to overcome all this, price increase is number one priority. And that is because with our industry, especially our Asian sector, they don't always listen. They always follow the old tradition, what they do. But they have to say, mindset has to be changed now, right? Regular training, weekly training, probably twice a week training, which is normally everybody doesn't do training in the restaurant. Training means talking, what is happening, briefing, everything, cleaning correctly. Restaurant was run different way before. Those days is gone. If you want to survive, follow the new concept and a proper concept. Do things properly, right? Because of the not just Brexit, not just post-Brexit, is the pandemic. So during pandemic, there are a lot of things came now, like hygiene, everything, washing hand, sanitizing, clean, everything, and that has to be 100% maintained. Another thing is now, because of the summertime now, because most of the restaurant, they kept their door open and everything, so there are facility of ventilation there. But there will be a huge worry for our customer during winter time, because everything, doors and everything kept shut. So they must change their ventilation system. So they have a proper ventilation system in place, so customer will be encouraged to come, and that has to be marketed. That our restaurant is safe if you come, because we followed all the process and procedure for safetyness, especially for COVID matter. So this is all need to be added. Plus, as I said before, we like to ask, and I like to request or ask our viewers, please encourage your family, including our wife, our sister, to join the industry. Because originally, when they started, the first the curry houses opened in this country, in Portland Street, 1810, which is a family run. So the rest, we have to advise them until all the problem, training, everything, because training needs 3 years minimum, because of the all this something level. What level we call it?
Level 2 food safety.
Yeah. Level 5, level 6. It needs 3 years training. So until that, if all family, if they decided to save this industry, save their family business, this is the only way.
Yeah.
Family has to join the restaurant now.
That's right, yeah.
There is no other way now. This is the only way to survive.
Yeah,
okay?
thank you.
And I always advise, please don't go for academic. You go for management, as other people say, go for education, but come back to your business, come back to your family business, and go for it. We haven't made enough profit before. And now, you know, like the Selena saying, that profit margin is very high. We can make more profit because if we do our research right. We don't do our research properly.
That's really great.
So
Thank
we have
you
to do
very
our
much.
research right.
Thank you very much, sir. Right. So, Ruhul, top recovery tips from you.
I think if I want to keep it brief, your business model, if you're fine dining, casual dining or fast food, put yourself where you're situated in business. Then from that, work your menu. You probably know some examples who were traditional takeaways. They've stopped their madrasis and masalas and they've turned it into a naan menu. So they put Nutella on naans, cinnamon on naans, like Mr. Pretzels. And they are doing much better than they were used to do, you know? So be creative, have a creative hat, at the same time stay safe, encourage and motivate people that were in our industry who were non-EU, who went to taxi driving, Uber, encourage them, motivate them how we can get them back. Encourage our cousins, friends who are going into professions, how we can encourage them to come back in this industry. There have to be some sort of motivation there.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. And finally, we're just going to head over to Zoom to our guests, Samson and Salima. So I'll start with you, Samson. Very briefly, in 20 seconds if you can, what is your top recovery tips?
Follow the SOPs and be determined, be positive, be strong, and definitely we will come over.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's very concise. And finally, over to you, Salima, to end the show.
I'll just say the world is run by a mobile phone today. Your customer is there. Innovate, innovate, innovate. Technology is the only way that you're going to survive. That's the way the world is run today. So digital transformation is key. Be creative, be innovative, and be resilient.
What a fantastic way to end the show. Innovate and digital transformation. I think those are the key points to take away from this episode where we discuss all things post-Brexit. So that's all from me and our studio guests. Thank you very much for your time today, and obviously our lovely guests over on the Zoom. And don't forget to tune in on September the 21st, where we'll be on our episode 4 of Catering Circle of this season. We'll be discussing job creation and recruitment. Other than that, good evening and thank you very much.